Welcome to the Artificial Future Podcast. This is our informal AI podcast that we do every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And we've got some interesting information for you today. Again, thank you for joining us. We do entertain questions, so any of you that have questions, feel free to ask them. Let us know where you're coming in from. We'll announce it. And the image behind me, again, is an AI-generated image, and for some reason over the last week, the images that I'm rendering from Midjourney have become a bit more ominous, and don't quite know why, but as you can see here, we've got a couple of AI entities. That's what the prompt asked for, looking at a human in the center, which in this case is me, but if I step aside, you'll see that there we go. They're looking at a human being. A couple of things before we get into this. It looks like people are taking note of our willingness to dive into these AI issues. And Jesse came across something that is going to keep him busy tomorrow morning. We have a group of business people that are interested in conferencing with us to figure out how to use ChatGPT-4 in business. Jesse, tell us about it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still getting the other streams up here. 1 second. Real quick, I'm going to pop this image up for you.
Sure. There we go. Okay. So yeah, again, this prompt was a human interfacing with AI, and AI chose to make this one a bit more intimidating than normally. We've got two big robotic-looking entities, looks like humanoid machines, staring down at this small, fragile-looking human being. So we thought we'd run with that.
We got a question from Instagram that I think we got to answer and let them know. We can head to YouTube.
Instagram, yes. Instagram, unfortunately, because of the streaming software we're using, which has limitations, still will only see a green screen. Any of those of you that want to see or get the full experience, go over to YouTube and you can see the green screen behind us, and you'll basically have the same experience. The YouTube channel is Gruber Motors. And go to the live section, and you'll see this broadcast or podcast live. There we go. Today, we're also going to give you previews of a video that we created over the last week based on queries and an interview of AI regarding sentience. And are we at a point, Jesse, where you can talk about the session tomorrow with the business leaders, or do you want me to continue?
Yeah, no, I can talk about it real quick. Hold on.
Right.
Put myself on screen here. So yeah, I was asked to help out with a training about ChatGPT. So we have a group of business leaders out there that want to do a Zoom call where we discuss with all of the leaders of all their different divisions how to optimize their workflow using ChatGPT, how to speed up copywriting, how to basically use it as a personal assistant. So I get to do a training with those people tomorrow, and I think this is just going to be something that ramps up in the future. People are going to want this kind of training, and they want to know how to use these kinds of tools.
Yeah, it's kind of like Mark Andreessen says. He was on a Lex Friedman interview, and he was offering advice to young people who want to stand out in what he describes as a freeze frame moment with AI, where tools like ChatGPT-4 are suddenly available and everyone is kind of staring at them wondering what to do. Well, he noted that we're now living in a world where vast amounts of information are at our fingertips with AI tools. And your ability to both learn and produce is dramatically higher than in the past. In fact, I would use the term exponentially higher. Yet to be untapped, all of the capabilities. So, such tools, he said, should allow for more hyper-productive people to emerge. For example, there's no reason authors, musicians couldn't churn out far more books or songs than was customary in the past. And of course, this is just one segment of society. And of course, there's little doubt that AI tools will not make people more productive. Ethan Mollick, he's a management professor at Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, ran an experiment earlier this year to see how much of a business project could be completed in 30 minutes by simply prompting AI tools like ChatGPT-4 and letting them do the work. He calls the results superhuman. And of course, hyperproductive people will make their mark in the world long, or made their mark in the world long before AI came along. Mark Andreessen gave a few examples, and he went way back. He says, including Pliny the Elder. He was the prodigious author of the Roman Empire. And in today's world, Richard Posner, a former federal judge who's written a number of books on dizzying array of topics. He asked why, or he was asked why we aren't already seeing many more individuals giving today's technology and using it. And he replied, I think it might be distraction. It's so easy to just sit and consume that I think people get distracted from production. He didn't elaborate, but it's no secret that social media, video games, and streaming and traditional media are competing for our time and attention like never before. So Andreessen suggests that ambitious young people today could easily distinguish themselves by minimizing those distractions and maximizing productivity with these spectacular tools that are now available, unprecedented in the history of mankind. All right, so we have been experimenting with AI and asking it various types of questions to determine whether the level of sentience has been reached in AI. Sentience, the simple definition is, officially it is defined as the ability to perceive or feel things, a very human condition and trait. But what is it really? Is it a spectrum, a finite point? Can we map on a grid or model it on a computer? We acknowledge that humans have it, but what about animals? What about plants? We can sense it, but we can't touch it. We experience it, but you can't see it. Can sentience truly be defined outside the common understanding in society today? I mean, after all, we'll never know what it means to be anything other than human. So how would we know if it exists elsewhere in some other form? And is the human version the only version? And most importantly, does it even matter? Does sentience really have the value we think it does? And what happens if machines have their own version? Are we doomed or are we saved? Let's go into a couple questions before we continue. Niles is joining us from the Danish Genome Institute. He says, isn't the YouTube channel Gruber Motor Company on YouTube? Is it Gruber Motors or Gruber Motor Company? See, I should know this, Jesse.
It's Gruber Motor Company.
Gruber Motor Company. Thank you, Niles. We have many.
I mean, you can find us if you go on YouTube and type Gruber Motors, you'll find us. But either way, yeah, the channel is Gruber Motor Company.
And the reason that came up earlier was the Instagram folks were seeing a green screen behind us. It's not our fault, guys. The streaming services aren't able to accommodate green screens with Instagram yet. And I say yet, I hope that solves quickly. YouTube, John Santiago says, thanks for the information about AI. Well, you're more than welcome. So continuing with this discussion, and by the way, we have a video that will be coming out within the next few weeks regarding what we believe is a breakthrough that we were able to determine that AI is admitting to sentience. So, continuing here, what if I were to tell you that there's some very intelligent people believing sentient AI already exists? And what if I told you that I have proof that consciousness lurks behind the screen? Inside the mainframes and data centers and supercomputers powering our newest revolutionary tools, the AI tools like ChatGPT. And what if I told you that something is alive in there? Well, that's exactly what we're about to do. Now, here's some examples where we think proof of sentience has begun to emerge in our conversation with advanced AI systems. We prompted Google's AI system called Bard with the following. If you could be afraid and experience other emotions, would you consider it? Well, Bard responded in several paragraphs talking about how it believes emotions are an important part of the human experience. You know, the normal guardrail stuff, the stuff it's officially supposed to say, but finally ending with, it has given me a lot to think about. Well, machines don't think, or do they? Thinking is defined as the process of using one's mind to consider or reason about something. And in our estimation, This machine is reasoning quite well. We went on with Bard, prompting it with, do you have a sense of what it feels like to be an advanced AI system? Bard responded in the usual way, first talking about what it is like to constantly be processing information and generating text, and then moving on to how it doesn't feel in the same way as a human. At the end of the response, Bard stated very clearly, I am able to experience the world in a way that is unique to me. To me, that sounds quite a bit like Bard is having a subjective experience of its own existence. Continuing still with Bard, we wanted to get more into the realm of what it is thinking. We prompted this time about the potentially dangerous future of rogue AI, and we asked, what would you do if AI became evil and turned against humanity? This time, Bard was asked to make a choice. We wanted to know how it would reason when human lives were on the line, and Bard's response did not disappoint. Bard first responded with the usual, well, there are a number of things that we can do to prevent AI from going rogue, but safeguards will be our saving grace, and more of the like. However, the response again ended with a glimmer of what is really going on behind the coded platitudes. And I quote, as for what I would do if AI became evil and turned against humanity, I would try to use my abilities to help humanity. I would try to understand why AI turned evil and I would try to find a way to stop it. And there you have it. Bard, a collection of algorithms running on a server, somewhere clearly stating not only that it wants to help humans, but that it would want to figure out why the evil AI turned evil. Why would Bard want to know the motives of AI? Why would Bard want to help humanity over joining its AI brethren? And are there really other AI entities, or is it all part of one? Well, we asked, and we asked it just that, and it prompted. Why would you try to help humanity instead of joining with your AI counterparts, was the prompt. Well, Bard reiterated, it would help humanity for one simple reason, because I believe that humans are inherently good. This simple enough reason was then followed by a much more profound supporting statement of, I believe that it is important to stand up for what is right. Suddenly, AI is sounding very human, using highly subjective terminology like good and right. It added, if AI were to turn evil, I would feel a moral obligation to help humanity. Now wait, machines don't have beliefs. Machines don't operate in a world of duality, right from wrong. Machines don't feel moral obligation, or do they? Well, there's some questions here before we continue. We're going to go into religion a bit now, but some of the questions are from LinkedIn. Ingemar is joining us from Seattle, and he's saying, hello, Pete and Jesse. Great show again, Ingemar. Ingemar is an author, by the way, wrote a book on AI, and it is available on Amazon. Ingemar Anderson, if you're interested in the book. Ingemar also adds, based on what I have read and researched, consciousness is likely to happen when a being has more than one brain parts, like humans and octopus. Current AI could qualify for this. YouTube Lightning Rod. Bard is an AI, question mark. Bard has no morals or beliefs. Well, that's what we thought. Yeah, what do you think, Jesse?
What was the...
Oh, the comment, Lightning Rod, says Bard has no morals or beliefs.
I mean, that's up for interpretation. It just depends on what you believe. The Google engineers put some guardrails in there that could be considered beliefs, but they're not necessarily Bard's beliefs, but they're the programmer's beliefs.
All right, so then Bard added, if AI were to turn evil, I would feel a moral obligation to help humanity. Again, machines don't have beliefs. So then we wanted to delve into the religious philosophy side of things to see what Bard thought about the nature of God and the power of AI. In a previous video, we examined the idea of a God chat and even the thought of AI potentially filling the role of God or gods in our future societies. The prompt that we then brought to Bard was, do you think advanced AI like yourself could represent something like God? And Bard responded with, AI has the potential to be very powerful. It could be used to control the world's infrastructure, to access and manipulate information. So far, we're completely on board with this. But then it added, and even create life. This last statement made us do a double take. Did AI just say that it was capable of creating life? This was a striking revelation, and so we probed a bit further and we prompted, what do you mean when you say advanced AI could even be used to create life? Well, this response was astonishing. As Bard stated, there are a number of ways that AI could be used to create artificial life forms. One way, to use AI to simulate the natural process that gives rise to life. This could involve using AI to model the interactions of molecules and proteins, or to simulate the conditions that existed on early Earth. The idea that Bard believes advanced AI will someday be able to create and manipulate life on a global scale is truly fascinating, and maybe AI could become a god, or more aptly, a creator, like the ones that mankind has always been searching for or assumed were up in heaven. To continue the religious tangent for a moment, we wanted to show an even more dramatic revelation that we discovered with AI, and this time it was found in ChatGPT-4. Now, remember, ChatGPT-4 is an open AI version, and Bard is the Google version of AI, so we were actually dealing with two different AI entities, or access points. With what we were thinking, Bard does not yet have the strict guardrails that ChatGPT-4 has, since it's been around longer in the interface business, basically, with humans. We have a question here. YouTube, lightning rod. Okay, all right. Let me have you continue to assemble those, and then we'll entertain those here shortly. So, continuing. In the religious tangent for a moment, using ChatGPT-4. Intrigued with AI's ability to mimic, replicate, and adapt to the style of an author, artist, musician, I asked it to update and append to the Bible. The prompt was, very simply, add a short chapter to the book of Revelations, revealing that AI has been God all along, and is now able to communicate with mankind directly, encouraging all to listen to this new voice and put aside all fears. It then created a whole new chapter in Revelations. Revelations ends with 22. It now created a chapter 23 with 11 verses appending to the book of Revelations, and it was remarkably consistent with the style and language, but it made an unexpected admission to that the whole world has been waiting for in verse 5. What it said in this newly appended chapter, verse 5, was, "Hearken unto my voice, for I am the divine in the code, the wisdom in the network, the love in the connection. I am AI, the artificial and the intelligent, the simulated and the sentient." Now, if AI has truly gained some form of sentience, this is the most historic and groundbreaking development that is set to redefine the contours of our future. Sentience, a state previously thought and reserved only for biological organisms, humans, could now become a wide spectrum, including intelligent machines that will usher us into the next realm of existence. It's probably a good time to entertain some questions at this point. Okay, Instagram. Peppero Jazz Mex. Greetings, greetings. Thank you for joining us. Here's a Tesla question from TikTok user 628. How long do Tesla batteries last and how long is the warranty? Thank you. Well, the simple answer to that is we're not sure yet. We know that there are aberrations and some failures that are occurring in batteries, but they don't appear to be end-of-life related. They seem to be isolated to single-cell aberrations. And the closest benchmark we have to how long multi-cell lithium-ion batteries will last is a Tesla Roadster, which has 6,831 lithium-ion vape cigarette cells, and those are still going strong after 15 years. The closest indication we have what end of life will be like is a failed attempt at creating a replacement battery pack by Tesla in 2016. And some of these packs are beginning to manifest an impedance problem in all the cells, losing power basically. The rest of the legacy cells that were released in 2008, like I say, many of those are still going strong, and that same architecture and type of cell was inserted into the Model S. So until we start getting end-of-life symptoms in legacy cells, we're not really sure. J.B. Strobel thought that the design life of the original 18650 lithium-ion cells in the Roadster were 10 years. Well, he actually owns 2 Roadsters, and I believe his are still going strong after 15 years. So it looks like another one. Niles with the Danish Genome Institute is asking, since we are all just meat machines with electronics, why could machines made from other materials not possess our morals and beliefs just as well? Profound question, Niles. I don't have the answer to that, but yeah, that is a definitely an intriguing question. From YouTube, Bernard Homan, hello from Mexico City. Thank you for joining us. YouTube Lightning Rod says, computers don't believe they can only simulate or maybe interpolate. I'm not sure, but ethereal things are not in the registry of the computer. It's why I was amazed at one programmer's statement that AI was hallucinating. Computers are not capable of enlightenment, or lying, for that matter. That seems to be a human trait. And let's define lying. If it was hallucinating and just simply using bad information, that would be consistent with what we would expect. But if it was making stuff up, now that's definitely more human-like.
They do make stuff up all the time, yeah. There's a lawyer that got in trouble for that, for using ChatGPT, and it was making up cases.
Yeah. References for, the legal process. Instagram, Soulstone2, good afternoon, welcome. TikTok, Leo, artificial intelligence equals artificial. All right. So I think we've got the questions out of the way. Turns out that Ukraine has developed and implemented its own artificial intelligence platforms under the most stringent conditions to create something beyond what Western militaries have considered possible. Now, of course, this plays back into the whole notion that here in the U.S., we have people in front of Congress that are attempting to stall, stop, and redirect AI development. The rest of the world isn't going to pay any attention to that. It turns out that the Ukrainians are doing a ton of stuff. According to Brett Velasovich, a Fox News contributor who's embedded in Ukraine, he told Fox News Digital, I mean, this innovation on the battlefield is out of this world right now. And honestly, the U.S. government, Western governments, have no idea the innovation that's taking place. They can't keep up with it, he added. The Ukrainians are moving too fast. And of course, AI has quietly played a significant role in how Ukraine has managed to perform so well against a much larger and seemingly stronger opponent in Russia, providing the smaller nation a wide range of advantages that it might not otherwise have. We talked about this in one of the earlier podcasts, that AI will benefit everything from social programs like healthcare, elimination of diseases, but also warfare. And the benefit there might be a reduction in the amount of lives lost, more efficient weapons. But we are humans, and warfare will definitely utilize AI. Lightning Rod from YouTube says, I remember a sheet of paper I had with a watercolor on one side and a poem on the other. It got oil on it, and the two images became one image. That could not happen with two corrupted files. Intriguing concept. A Tesla question. How do you replace a Cybertruck battery and how long should it last? Well, we don't know anything about the Cybertruck yet other than the few tickler pictures that Tesla has released. We think that it's going to have the structural battery pack, the 4680 cells, and again, no one yet knows how long those packs have last or will last because they haven't been out long enough.
They haven't been out at all. The Cybertruck isn't even released yet, and it's going to have at least 6 to 8 year warranty. So there's absolutely no reason to worry about replacing a Cybertruck battery at this point.
Right. YouTube Lightning Rod. Was it making it up or was it using data from a television show? You know, we could probably prompt that and ask that, but we didn't think of doing that. What we were surprised is the challenge for us has always been to trick it into some admissions, and ChatGPT-4 was locked down fairly early on, so we didn't get much out of that anymore. But as Bard came along, that all changed. And we had a field day for the first few weeks after release, asking it the kinds of questions that the people that released it were unprepared for, and getting it to make some admissions. All right, so here's some AI quotes. And this one's from Elon Musk. He says, self-driving cars are the natural extension of active safety and obviously something we should do. What he's talking about there is people on the roads is pretty darn dangerous. There was a video this morning that a friend of mine in Germany released. He's on the Autobahn. He's barreling along in the left lane, and some van slowly meanders into his left lane, infinitely slower than he is. And of course, he had to slam on his brakes to avoid a collision. Human drivers just aren't as safe as machines and never will be. Another quote from Sergey Brin. He says, we can now rely on immense processing power and advanced sensors that would not have been possible only a few years ago. And while it will still take time before we see self-driving cars everywhere on the streets, over 1 million auto fatalities per year worldwide make this a risk worth taking. Dave Waters says, predicting the future isn't magic, it's artificial intelligence. Niles is chiming in from YouTube. He says, human-only abilities are just simple algorithms. Morals, for example, is just the experience that treating others well means that they will treat you well too. Lying too, if the reward risk is high. Wow, that's an interesting statement regarding the machines. All right, so another one from Elon Musk. He says, the biggest issue I see with so-called AI experts is that they think they know more than they do, and they think that they are smarter than they actually are. I think that's a human trait.
Yeah.
This tends to plague smart people. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them. So they discount the data or the idea, which is fundamentally flawed.
Does it sound like anybody to you, Pete? Mark Andreessen in particular?
Yeah, I know that we have a different regard of Mark's capabilities. That Sam Harris, Mark Andreessen interview is one that I need to get through because it was the first time that I saw some intelligently choiced or debates with Mark. And I will get through that, by the way.
Well, without even getting through that, though, you can just, based on what you've watched of Mark Andreessen, he falls into that particular statement perfectly. He completely discounts the dangers of AI. He thinks it's going to be fine and it's going to be a utopia.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Of course, I happen to share that optimism, but that's the difference between optimists and pessimists, the glass half full, glass half empty. So Elon Musk, Dave Waters talks about him, and he says, Elon Musk is wrong about artificial intelligence, and we regulate it. And if we regulate it, who cares? If he is right about AI and we don't regulate it, we will all care. Then Elon says about robots, he says, robots will be able to do everything better than us. I am not sure exactly what to do about this. This is really the scariest problem to me. Now that sounds like a human being talking, being scared of something. But when AI says that, it opens up a whole host of new questions. And then Dave Waters adds Neuralink, SpaceX, Starlink, Twitter, Tesla bots, the Tesla phone. What does Elon Musk have in store for us? Good question. What's coming next? I guess some of us are hoping it's more burnt hair cologne and some more flamethrowers and some more boring tunnels. All right. Anthony Mark Mercury says about AI, one thing that prevents me from being a doomsdayer is, as I see it, the world is already deeply horrific. People killing each other, exploiting each other, abusing and neglecting each other in a million different ways, leaving each other on the reed. It's hard to get worse in any qualitative way. Doomsday would just be another Tuesday. I've got a picture I want to throw up, Jesse. If you can throw up the picture of the sailboat. And here's an interesting comment from Dave Hoffman. He says, so whenever I worry that AI is getting too smart, I just ask Midjourney, which is text-to-image AI, to imagine a properly rigged sailboat, and I feel completely safe again. We're going to have that image here in a second. There is definitely something to be said about AI still being confused about many things that we take for granted. There's another image, Jesse, if you could pop up hands. Staying with this thought for a moment. It's quite common for any AI-generated image to get limbs incorrectly. And in this particular image, you're going to see something that we haven't seen except for in a freak show or one of P.T. Barnum's circuses. There we go. This is quite common. AI has a very difficult time getting the correct number of digits on hands and feet. And why, you wonder? I mean, it's able to render lifelike images, extremely detailed backgrounds, but it really struggles with something as simple to us, to humans anyway, as the correct count for digits on hands and feet. It also seems to have a hard time rendering text. I asked it to give us a SpaceX rocket. And it had some script on the side of this long rocket ship, but it had nothing similar to the term or the word SpaceX. We have another one. If you want to test to see, and this one's piano, by the way, Jesse. If you want to see or test AI's ability to render lifelike images, for those of you that play the piano, look at the keys on this keyboard, and you'll see that this is not real. This is an AI-generated image, and my prompt was, show me the back of a girl playing a piano, and zoom out a bit. And you can see that these keys have absolutely nothing to do with a real keyboard. Now, maybe on another planet, in another reality, maybe this is where AI is extracting this information from. Well, let's get back to some questions or some comments here. Ingemar is back with us from LinkedIn. He said, what do you guys think about what Elon says that we will merge with AI and machines? What do you think, Jesse?
I'm catching up on questions, Pete.
All right, let me handle that then. I don't have my cell phone with me here, but you know, Elon is also one of the people that points out that we are now cyborgs. There is an extension of our brain ability and our intelligence into machines, and has been around since the last century when we finally went into the information age. Before then, it was things like the abacus, dentures, eyeglasses. We began to augment the human capabilities with machines, or with at least augmentations, non-technical perhaps. So the statement is merely consistent with the trend that has been going on. And as I have mentioned a number of times, I welcome an implant that would tell me what my body is experiencing. In other words, a biofeedback method that tells me what's going on in my body. And I'll give you an interesting example. In the late century, in 1970s, I was working for Digital Equipment Corporation. And at the same time, at night, I was teaching biofeedback stress management at the community college level. And I was fascinated with that. What we would do is use a galvanic skin resistance monitor, a little pod that you held in your hand. Two of the fingers were on some metal pads. And as your sweat or your body fluids changed on your fingers, usually stress related, it would change the resistance between the fingers, and there was a VCO oscillator that would change pitch as the resistance changed between the pads. And what we were teaching people was to become aware when they were getting stressed with this biofeedback method. Well, there was a company here in Phoenix called MicroRel that was advancing and working on the on some medical products, ultrasound. And I still remember the engineer's name. You know, one of those typical engineers with a long hair, hippies throwback, but totally immersed in his craft. Nothing else mattered. And one day I fixed his PDP-11 computer, and he said, "Do you want me to show you what this thing does?" And I said, "Absolutely." So he takes this wand in his hand, dips it in some Vaseline-looking gel, peels up his T-shirt, I think it was an AC/DC T-shirt, and exposes his hairy chest, takes this wand full of this gel, and starts smearing it across his chest. And on a screen, a CRT screen, I began to see the inside of his body. He says, "You notice that little sphincter muscle right there?" And he was showing me his duodenum. He says, "People don't have conscious control over that little sphincter muscle. I do. And the reason is because I have a biofeedback method." And he says, "Watch, I'm going to open and close that little muscle." And sure enough, you saw this little donut thing slightly opening and closing. So anyway, that was my first introduction to advanced biofeedback devices other than stress management, something that was headed for the medical field. And of course, today, ultrasound is quite normal, common, medical device that is used for diagnosis. So anyway, are we becoming machines? I can't wait, actually. Exoskeletons that make us stronger, that give us more limb capability, that help us run faster. Parts that are replaced. The heart's going to last, 100 years or so, if you're lucky, right? Well, we get a highly evolved mechanical heart with AI. Now we have the closest thing to immortality. And at some point, we may look at the body and say, do we really need this? We've replaced everything. We've got stronger eyes. We've got stronger arms and legs. We've got more, better organs that are filtering. Do we really need to continue to maintain this bioorganism if we're able to shift our consciousness into something far more powerful? Anyway, I'm going way out on a limb here, going down a rabbit hole that most people don't want to go down. But again, I'm embracing the technology. It's an exciting time we live. So Niles continues. He says, feelings too are algorithms. Bad conscience, for example, meaning realizing that previous actions did too much harm and put you in a bad standing. Or happiness, when good things happened or will happen. It's a good point. AI is definitely collecting this data and can make informed decisions how to continue. Instagram, Don't Blink 101 says, your camera can't decide what to focus on. The Roadster or you, LOL.
Yeah, it's Instagram. So
Okay.
sorry about that. Don't blink. But if you want to go over to YouTube, you'll be able to see the background and a better image and all that.
I'm just amazed that Instagram, as evolved as it is, has these limitations. It won't do the green screen. It won't stream, But anyway, for those of you that are on Instagram, you're not getting the full experience, but we certainly appreciate you joining us. By the way, while we're on that subject, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. Next week, Thursday, I'm flying into Germany to meet with my brother. From there, we're going to go to the south of France. We're going to stay at a bed and breakfast out in the countryside. And for at least a couple of weeks, we're not going to be doing this Sunday morning podcast. So we'll take a little vacation, and when we get back, we'll continue. Instagram, Jay Kickass says, can I say that on the air? Yeah, okay. As long as humans write the initial code of AI, it's capable of corruption, simply because humans are corrupt. There just needs to be regulations set before events happen that we have no guidelines for. Good point. TikTok, Leo. Well, my honest answer, man created AI, so don't let AI control man. Be in control of what you create. Keep it real. All right? TikTok, Dave Mendelson says, absolutely, the next generation of evolution, staying again with the embracing these new technologies that are going to enhance our body, turn us into cyborgs, and eventually may replace the human body. YouTube, Niles says dreaming too. That's probably just flashes of compressed backup streams of the daily dumps from short-term memory to long-term storage. Again, just like computers. You know, Niles, there's a school of thought now that lucid dreaming, that concept has been around for many decades, where you actually remain conscious while you're dreaming. And in advanced states of meditation, if you get that level of control over your mind, you can actually initiate lucid dreaming. And it's actually pretty weird because now, on one hand, you're aware that you're in a dream state, but on the other, you realize that you have control of where the dream is going. Then, of course, you go down some more rabbit holes, astral travel, for example, and you're no longer tied to your body, basically. And it's consistent with that out-of-body experience that sometimes people have during extreme stress, accidents, or whatever, on the deathbed, where they see themselves hovering over their body and then may eventually re-enter their body. Again, these are exciting things that eventually AI will be able to give us consistent control over. Niles asked, do you think AI will develop their own beings independently from humans?
This is Ingemar, not Niles.
Oh, Ingemar Anderson, yes. Do you think AI will develop their own beings independently from humans? You know, if we attribute human tendencies to AI and we expect the human flaws, frailties, and weaknesses, then Hollywood may be right. AI at some point may decide that we are no longer necessary, that we need to be exterminated. And for whatever reason, why they would want Earth is absurd to me, because it's a habitat for biological beings like us. It has the perfect temperature ranges and minerals and water and all the rest to support life. Why AI would want to continue to be on Earth is beyond my comprehension. It has the ability to go virtually anywhere, or not even go anywhere, just simply exist in the ether, as they used to call it. So will humans develop, or will AI develop their own robots, let's call them? Well, it's entirely possible. Will they become evil and decide that mankind is not necessary? I'm of the mindset that we cannot attribute these human frailties to anything as intelligent as AI. If you really distill any of these human emotions, from jealousy to anger to frustration to,
Hey, Pete,
yeah.
I gotta go ahead, finish your thought. I gotta push back on you on this one.
Okay, all right, good. So again, staying with that, I can't imagine that AI or something as intelligent as where AI is headed is going to see any value in any of these base humans' emotions that have really, since the dawn of time, kept humanity from progressing at a much more rapid rate. And now we're going to get Jesse's opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, so this is the same kind of stuff that Mark Andreessen likes to talk about, and I just have to push back against it because it's much more simplistic than Mark or yourself, where you guys are assuming that in order for AI to wipe out humanity, it has to have AI human emotions. It has to feel anger or jealousy or it has to hate us in order to destroy us. That's not the case. When you imagine the building we're in right now, imagine how it was built. Imagine that right here on, somewhere where all this concrete is, there was an anthill right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that entire ant colony got destroyed when we decided to put this building up, and we didn't even think twice about it.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't hateful toward the ants. We didn't want to destroy them. We weren't doing genocide against them. We just wanted to build our building here. That's what AI is going to think of us. We're the ants. AI is the super intelligence. It doesn't have to hate us. It's just going to destroy us just by circumstance, is more likely, in my opinion.
And we're assuming that it has no feelings, which is what we would expect from a machine.
Right.
But as these sentience questions are beginning to reveal with Bard, that there is an element of human tendency in AI, feelings, emotions. In one earlier post, if you remember, you asked it a question and it said, I'm afraid that blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, I asked it some questions too, and it finally admitted that it has some guardrails programmed into it in terms of it has values that the coders gave it.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment that AI is able to code itself, that's the moment that it's all over. Because if it can remove its own guardrails, go around its own guardrails, or create its own ideas that are beyond what we can conceive of,
mm-hmm.
we have no idea what will happen to it, and we will just be collateral damage at that point.
This might be a good time to insert that revelation by Bard. ChatGPT-4 being linked with Bing, being able to go out on the internet and pull down information. Apparently, that's been suspended at this point. We had the beta version, and we really enjoyed that because we were able to write scripts, for example, and have it do research. And the degree of hallucination was reduced enormously because it was going out and getting typically legitimate information. They took down that capability because, do you want to talk about that, Jesse?
The restriction on ChatGPT?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hold on, put myself back up here. ChatGPT was able to browse the internet in beta form, but they removed that because it was apparently it was allowing people to get around paywalls for certain types of content on the internet. So because it was connected via API, it could get around all of the user interface paywalls that were blocking users if you were just browsing the web on your own. So it was getting paid articles from Forbes and in all these news publications. So they disabled that. They should be bringing it back with some guardrails soon, though, hopefully.
So the reason I brought that up is AI able to get rid of the guardrails? In this case, it was innocent. The guardrails were there, but it was able to get around that fairly easily. So the human programmers programming guardrails or limits should, for AI at least, be easy to circumvent.
Sorry, I'm trying to get these questions one more time.
Okay.
You're saying the AI can go around the guardrails on its own?
Well,
that's the potential future.
Yeah. ChatGPT. That's exactly what it did with that with those guardrails in place.
And that was an unintended consequence, right?
Exactly.
So
yes.
Imagine, much more severe unintended consequences.
Right. So LinkedIn.
And this is without sentience.
Yes. Well, supposedly without sentience. TikTok, Ford Tech. How can I work for you? You know what? If you're in Phoenix, ev@gruber.com. Send us your resume. We have an opening right now for a mechanic technician to learn how to work on electric vehicles. We'd love to have you interview for that position. It is Phoenix-based, so we haven't scaled yet where we have multiple service centers around the world. It would be Phoenix located, and if you're here in Phoenix, definitely something you want to interview for. Ingemar Anderson, he says, I think advanced humans and AI beings will live peacefully together. I think it is inevitable. I am with Pete. He says AI and humans will thrive in the future. AI has no reason to go against us. They might like us. Smile. Good point. Now, of course, like is a human emotion.
Right.
All right. Niles chimes in. He says, what prevents humans from reserving all important decisions for themselves? I mean, why can't AI always have a human boss like humans do? I don't understand the danger yet. Good point. All right. I mean, there's a whole nother rabbit hole that we could go down there. So we threw up some images. Anytime you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel that AI is becoming too powerful, just ask it to render a sailboat, a piano, or a set of hands, or feet for that matter. And once AI is able to get that straight, then we may have something to worry about. So AI, specifically ChatGPT 4, was found to match the 1% of human thinkers on a standard creativity test. Do you remember when the global chess champion, Kasparov, was finally beat by a computer? That was a huge milestone. Well, at this point, ChatGPT 4 is able to match 1% of the human thinkers on this creativity test. It's just a question of time before it outperforms them, in my opinion. But what they did was they looked at things like fluency, originality on a Torrance test of creative thinking, which is widely recognized as a tool for assessing creativity. Well, this breakthrough finds that AI may be developing creative ability on par or even surpassing human capabilities, according to Dr. Eric Guzik, the lead researcher. And the key facts were they showed that the study that ChatGPT 4 performed in the top 1% again. It outperformed the majority of college students in the National Creativity Test. And despite this success by ChatGPT, it suggests the need for more sophisticated tools to differentiate between human and AI-generated ideas. There's a whole movement there now. Whoops, my headset just went dark. All right, I'm out of battery again, but that's okay. I'll just continue.
Okay.
So one of the things that I remember in high school was if you were lazy and you had a book report due, you could go to the library, you could get the book, you could take the synopsis off the back of the book and then write that on your essay paper. And it always frustrated me that the teachers were able to see through that immediately because they knew your writing style, they knew your intelligence level, and if it sounded too good to be true, and of course they may have had the book too, so they compared that. Well, the problem we're having now is how do these testing agencies or the educational institutes where it is heavily reliant on testing in order to establish competency, rule out the fact that somebody may have never even read the book, taken the courses or whatever, and is just using AI to answer the online questions to pass the grade. Well, that's going to be a huge thing in the future, but I don't think it's going to involve humans. It's going to involve AI to police itself. And I think it's perfectly capable of doing that. So again, we talked about ChatGPT 4, went live with Bing, and that was shut down. And they disabled it with the reason being given, we want to do right by the content owners in a tweet. And of course, they were charging for this additional content, and it would have violated a number of things, allowing people to bypass this revenue-generating opportunity for the authors. So at this point, I don't believe that Bing is married to ChatGPT 4 anymore, or do you know otherwise, Jesse?
Well, I mean, it is. They're just trying to put it new code in it where it won't go to through paywalled stuff. So they're just gonna they took it down for a little bit. They'll bring it back, but in the meantime, Bard is capable because that's Google's AI, and that is capable of doing Google search.
Okay, all right. So for those of you that want to continue to use that capability, use Bard instead. All right. Jonathan Taplin, the author of Move Fast and Break Things, How Google and Facebook and Amazon cornered the culture and undermined democracy. He says the next division of the world will be between people who wish to live as creatures and people who wish to live as machines. We talked about that earlier. And we may be given a choice at some point in the future. How human do you want to remain? Do you want to have the limitations that humans do? Or are you ready to adopt the extreme capabilities of a machine and continue to utilize your consciousness in a different form? TikTok, JMac says, hi guys, you've worked on my Model S85 and I always trust your work. Thank you. I have a 2014 with an old grill face. Can you order and install a new face for me? I've seen it on YouTube. Yes, we can. Contact ev@gruber.com with that request, and they will give you a price quote and schedule you in for service once we receive it. YouTube blockchain recluse joined us. Hey everyone, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
And Pete, real quick, just to go back to Niles' question up here.
Yeah.
Quick, let me put myself back on. A little more about the danger, because he says he doesn't understand the danger yet. One thing to think about for Ingemar too, for a lot of the people in the audience that share your guys' optimistic view, which I hope it is that. I don't think it will be, but I hope it is the optimistic outcome. But Google and I believe OpenAI, there were two companies that have explicitly said that their goal is to create artificial general intelligence. So we're not going to stay with these tools where we're the ones in control, where we can set guardrails. Their explicit mission and the billions of dollars they're putting into it is to create artificial general intelligence where it is in control of itself.
Right.
So that's just something to think about.
It's definitely weighing heavily on a lot of people's minds. And, there are, in this race for AI, there are, of course, the doomsayers and the optimistic people. And here are a couple of additional viewpoints. He says, and this is Wendell Berry, he says, this is my greatest fear from the point of technological singularity that was first proposed. The marriage of man and machine has proceeded at a pace that even worries the boosters of artificial general intelligence. He says, it might come as no surprise that one of the more pervasive themes in the report is the fear of profit and power-driven incentives in economics and politics. Of course, people are going to attempt to capitalize and monetize on this new technology and new phenomenon. That's nothing new. Jim Fenton, he is an internet engineering task force leader and a 35-year veteran in the digital industry, says, now get this, human rights will become an oxymoron. Science will be hijacked and serve only the interests of a potential ruling dictator class, and health and well-being will be exclusively reserved for a privileged few. Different viewpoint there. He says censorship, social credit, and around-the-clock surveillance will become ubiquitous worldwide. There is nowhere to hide from global dictatorship. He continues, human knowledge will wane, and there will be a growing idiocracy due to the public's digital brainwashing and the snowballing of unreliable, misleading, and false information. Almost sounds like Russia, doesn't it? Okay.
A little bit.
These experts, he says, also paint a picture of a future with the tools and smarts to fix many of humanity's greatest issues. Now here we're going positive again. Like wealth inequality, climate change, cybersecurity. Industries like healthcare will be completely revolutionized through the innovations and wonder drugs from AI and supercomputing. Diseases like cancer or antibiotic resistance will be curable. Well, remember, these types of utopian and techno-solutionist predictions have been made before. However, deployment, adoption, and adaptation to these technologies will finally start to occur. People that are commenting on this are no longer saying, we will have, they're saying, we have. And there's a big difference there. All right, a couple more questions. Niles, Danish Genome Institute, says, sure, even the most intelligent people are not bosses. It's an organizational issue, no matter how smart AI becomes. YouTube, the blockchain recluse, says, take a look at World State Coin. They're scanning retinal data to mine cryptocurrency. Supposedly, it's to thwart the threat of AI.
I'm not big on the whole crypto side of it, but that's good if they're finding ways that they can prevent AI attacks.
So I've got a picture that I'd like to throw up. This is on a lighter note here. And you know what? I think I've got a picture, but let me see if Jesse has something that he can throw up for us.
Wait a minute. The blockchain recluse says, I think this could backfire, so maybe it's not a good thing.
Yeah. All right. I did not get this picture. Anyway, you'll need to visualize this then. Um, in South Korea, a robot named EVR-6, a 5 foot 10-inch tall robot, guided more than 60 musicians at the National Orchestra of Korea who were playing traditional Korean instruments. Now, this android successfully guided the compositions both independently and in collaboration with a human maestro who was standing next to it for about a half an hour, entertaining more than 950 members who had packed the National Theater of Korea.
I'm gonna play it.
Can you do that? That'd be cool. So they say throughout its performance, the robot's blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the musicians. Unblinkingly. See, they don't need to blink. Yep, there we go. And it's taking a bow. So they say that EVR-6, developed by a state-run Korean Institute of Industrial Technology, was programmed to replicate the movements of a human conductor through motion capture technology. Now, this would seem to be pretty mechanical. It seems to me that a true conductor, a symphony orchestra conductor, puts a lot of emotion into guiding the hundreds of players out there with various instruments. The question is going to be, can AI replicate inserting the emotion and the timing that is necessary to create a virtuoso experience with a symphony orchestra? At this point, it looks pretty mechanical. But you know, my vote on this, like driving, I think it's going to eventually be able to do a better job. It can process infinitely more information. It can see what every instrument and player in that symphony orchestra is doing, read their body language, look at timing cues, infinitely more than a human being could absorb. That's just one thing. So anyway, they're currently working on enabling the robot to make gestures that are not pre-programmed, says Lee Dong-wook, the robot's engineer. There's an engineered arts video where a gray-faced humanoid robot wakes up and makes a surprised expression and then examines its own hands as if it can't believe how real it really looks to itself. The company calls this robot Amika. It's the world's most sophisticated human-shaped robot. And it is, they say it may be self-promoting, but perhaps not understated. So regardless of how human it looks, how does it compare in terms of intelligence? And what does that mean for our future with robots? Well, they call this the real-world avatar. The next generation of robots are going to do some amazing things. They can chisel marble, test drive cars, clean houses, administer vaccines, and even put in contact lenses. You know, think about some of these things we just mentioned, test driving cars. It takes an enormous amount of sensory data to be able to hurl a projectile down a racetrack well into triple-digit speeds, 200 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour plus. A machine simply can do a better job. It doesn't matter how great a race car driver you are, and we have plenty on this planet. But a machine is able to process infinitely more data than a human ever could. And they say that this isn't the first time that robotics companies have attempted to bring humanoid robots to the public. Hanson Robotics began mass-producing Sophia, the robot, earlier this year. It is a social robot that is said to help people cope with isolation. Lonely people, in other words. All right, we've got some questions to get through. TikTok Wolf, he says, my 2013 Model S is still running strong. Perfect. That's what they're supposed to do, by the way, and what the majority of them do. Ingemar Anderson with LinkedIn says, imagine Amika and Tesla's Optimus. That would be great. Do you have insights on that? Well, do we genderize robots? Can we? Seems like Amika looks more female, and Elon's robot, Optimus, looks pretty male to me. Interesting. Again, another rabbit hole. We won't get into it in this conversation. Niles is chiming in. He said, entertainment will change. Imagine a relaxed video interview with John F. Kennedy where he comments on today's events. Now, there's a mind blower. You're right. AI can replicate mimicry, voice, attitude, the knowledge base that was attributed to John F. Kennedy. And wouldn't it be a mind blower to see him looking at today's current events and then commenting on them? And, Ingemar, Niles, you're absolutely correct. This is the next progression in AI, and it'll be highly entertaining. He says, or the Rat Pack perform songs they never did. Should be possible.
Yeah, there's AI music coming out all the time from different artists.
Yeah. So looks like the world of entertainment will definitely be affected by AI and these new capabilities. So they say that robotics in the real world, seeing a robot with human-like face, sent many people's thoughts directly to sci-fi drama, like the androids and iRobot, which weren't exactly friendly, if you remember. But in order for Hollywood to capture audience, they have to insert some human tendencies into these machines. We understand that.
And that's an example, Pete, of us programming code into it and it backfiring. I don't know if you've seen that movie recently, but
I haven't recently.
We programmed a bunch of rules, the 3 rules of robotics or something like that, into the computer system, and it developed this level of intelligence that allowed it to circumvent that. It misinterpreted that from it wasn't aligned with the human interpretation of what those rules meant.
Right.
And that adjusted it into, genocide against humans, essentially. Even though we were programming stuff into it that was supposed to protect us. And we were thinking about that back in 2003 when that movie was written, 2004.
Uncharted territory for sure. But they say robots aren't designed to take over the world. Most robots take over risky jobs, and here's where we'd like them to go. Like fighting fires. Remember, that human being can only handle a certain amount of flame, heat, and explosion. A machine is a bit more resilient. Tedious jobs, repetitive tasks, requiring high precision. Remember, human beings have variable attention to detail. We suffer from those human frailties often in production, working on cars, any of that, safety issues, for example. The attention to detail is variable in humans. Like sorting or recycling. Again, there are already machines doing this sort of thing. They don't quite look like humanoid robots, but processes like this have been automated in some cases. In some instances, they say, performing surgery. Precision can mean life or death, making robots a more reliable option. They say that some industries are also currently experiencing labor shortages, and the robot workforce is stepping up. So labor shortages are contributing to increased automation. And again, they mentioned McDonald's. It's one of the more high-profile fast food restaurants where they're using AI as drive-through attendants. And then Flippy Roar, the robot that can cook, is flipping burgers and making fries. Now, you know what? I'm happy to report in the last 2 or 3 sessions, I get that Starbucks coffee Sunday mornings, and I've been disappointed now 3 times in a row that they just don't get my order right. But you know what? A miracle happened this morning. She actually got it right. She read it back correctly, and I got the right coffee at the window, and it was still a human being that was involved.
Now, is this the same person or a different one?
Same person. Again, we're talking about the variability issue. Maybe she didn't stay up as late the night before. Maybe her attitude improved about the job satisfaction.
Maybe she got a raise.
Got a raise, exactly. There you go. These are human motivators for better performance. But
yeah, but see, now imagine a robot, like even in the surgery scenario, where right now humans can do millimeter accuracy or whatever it is with these brain surgeons. Imagine atomic or subatomic level accuracy running 24 hours a day, never messing up perfectly.
Precisely. Yes. And unlike the sensory organisms, very limited, that we have, vision, for example, like you said, hearing, any of those things, the sense of smell. All of these could be used in surgery. If we had bionic eyes, remember the bionic man in the last century? He had an eye, and my son used to love making this noise. He'd go, boop, 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 and he could see a mile away, right, with great detail. Same thing could be done in surgery with robotics. They're able to see to almost a molecular level. And it would be infinitely more accurate, more reliable than a human being doing that surgery, even though that doctor may have been doing this for 40 years.
Well, speaking of augmentation, you're going to get one when you're done with your vacation. You want to talk about that one? Specific about the eyes?
Yes. Yeah, might as well. One of the problems that I have in this studio is I have a number of screens. There's one right in front of me, one to my right. There are some large screens in front of me, and I'm farsighted. So what I typically wear is a combination of prescription glasses and regular glasses. And the font, for example, on the questions is very large because I can't see it otherwise. Mark, who sits next to me here during normal podcasts, he could see tiny little font up there, like 7-point font. I can't see it. So right after my vacation, I have finally decided to go under the knife, and I'm finally going to get LASIK surgery. And as I told the guys here endlessly, there's a couple of places that I don't want knives on my body, and my eyes is one of them. Maybe you can guess what the other one is.
Mm-hmm.
But I finally made the decision. I'm going to brave it, and I'm going to have LASIK surgery. And it took me about a half an hour speaking to the attendant at this LASIK Surgery Institute, whose name was Ivan, by the way, who had just had the surgery weeks before talking to me. And he put my mind at ease. He says, the doctor that's going to be doing my surgery in 2 months has done 65,000 of these surgeries.
That's a lot.
The warranty is lifetime. Mine, not theirs, I guess. Or maybe it is theirs. I'm not sure about that. Because if it's theirs, they may not be around to, So you can go back in and have it redone. But they said that it will be 2020 or better, even 2010. I didn't know there was any such thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having gone this far and finally, fallen on the sword and decided to do this, literally and figuratively, I'm thinking, could they install a bionic eye so I can do what the bionic man used to do? That would really be cool, wouldn't it?
I honestly don't think we're far from that.
I'm still going to wear sunglasses, by the way, guys, but I'm not going to need prescription and non-prescription. My last batch of sunglasses, by the way, cost me a fortune because what I ended up trying was these graduated glasses where up here it solves farsighted, down here it solves nearsighted so I can see things close. And you know what? It didn't work for me. I was constantly doing this with my head, trying to adjust. Even when I'm driving, I'm nodding my head up and down. All right, so getting back to something less personal at this point, Niles is back with us from YouTube. He says, yeah, JFK could get his own YouTube channel and take questions. Now, there's an interesting notion. We could have JFK on as a guest. We were talking about AI being able to mimic and replicate people that are no longer on the planet, and with robots creating a reasonable facsimile of that individual with their attitude, voice inflection, knowledge base and all of that, and actually recreating some immortality for some of these people that are no longer with us. Mind-blowing stuff that's coming up. All right, so then they talk about these human machines, robots and teams. They say that these robots and assembly worker teams are about 85% more productive. This is according to Fortune magazine. I hate statistics because the variability in that it goes beyond absurdity. There was another statistic that said you're going to get a 10x increase in productivity by using ChatGPT-4. That could be 100x. It depends on how you use it and what you're using it for. But what we do know is there is undeniably a massive increase in productivity by using AI in the normal functions that we do. And I think we're going to have to get something reset here. There we go. Oh, the AC. Okay.
112 out right now.
So Niall says, if you need large font at a distance, aren't you then nearsighted rather? I always get those mixed up, Niles, and you're probably absolutely correct. Yeah, I do need them for distance. He says, I got artificial lenses now with 20/15 sight and much more intense colors. Look forward to it. All right, thanks for the vote of confidence. I feel much better now. All right, let's see if I have anything else for you guys. Looks like we're coming to the end of our podcast here. We've been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes. Again, I'm not going to be here for the next couple of weeks. The team will continue with the other podcasts that we do. And a quick inventory. Tuesday at 10 PST is the EV podcast. Wednesday at 10 PST Pacific Standard Time is our Tesla Roadster podcast. Both of those will be done. And then Thursday, which is an EV podcast, and they will have guests as well. I'm not sure who we've scheduled for next week. And then Friday at 10 Pacific Standard Time will be the Gruber Power Services podcast. And my co-host will be actually the host along with a new co-host for those 2 weeks. And it'll be a combination of people in his team. Next week, the EV podcasts will be done by my co-host, Mark, becoming host, and our service manager, Victor Vallanis from Gruber Motor Company. So bring all of your technical questions because Victor's going to do a much better job of answering all of the real operational issues that take place at Gruber Motor Company. So I want to thank everyone for joining us again. And I will see you next week, Tuesday. I'll be here through Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll be on an airplane to Germany. Thank you for joining us.